that was really lovely because Meredith works in Kansas City, which is where Julie is from. And so the survivor was here in this area and they had not seen each other for a while. So that was great. But also wanted to introduce our other board members who are on with us. Lauren Bateman and Kat is on the board. Also Ed Williams. Thank you. And Rochelle Douglas. All right. And let's see, I think that's, oh, Pete. Eating. So there, oh, there he is. And then also Leela is on our advisory board. She goes back a long way. There's Leela, thank you. So we have other board members and other advisory board members, but I wanted to make sure you all knew who was on this evening. And then of course we have volunteers that do other things, volunteer drivers. Laura, if you want to wave, you're in Holt Summit, and Rita, who's here in Columbia. Let's see, Shannon, I'm sorry if you would like, I don't want to put anybody in these spots, so you can pass, but I know that Shannon and I know Katie, you're there in Trenton, if you want to say briefly what agency you're with. And I know that we were fortunate to be able to have placement there in your area of a survivor that was in our area originally, and that you have actually been providing some pretty long-term support to that individual. But Katie, if you want to mention your agency. I know this is tricky business because we're also able to like go get something from the refrigerator or check on your kids or put your dog outside. Anyway, so when Katie comes out, she's with an agency in Trenton that's been providing some support and case management to survivor in her area. Let's see, and then Jen, thank you for sharing who you are. We appreciate any connection with high schools. And so I think you'll appreciate this particular session. We do have a focus on labor trafficking, which Julie will be sharing about, but also not only is this the month of Labor Day, but also it's the month where most schools are starting back. I think some might have started in August, but it's a really critical time of the year because of school starting. We're still dealing with COVID. We still have kids who are spending more time on social media because things are being done differently. Not as much social in-person things going on in many instances. So we wanted to start off with, we have several announcements, but let's just really kick this off with some really important things about our young people and social media. So we're going to start with a video, the one that you just pulled up on YouTube, kind of shake things up a bit.
So this one?
Yes.
The one we posted.
The other one first, and that will be
mine first,
no,
and then
no.
This one first.
That one first.
Okay.
Yeah. This is an online grooming video. And then Rochelle.
Oh yeah. Okay, well, it's pretty simple, really. There's no secret to it. Basically, you just go in, go to places where people like to go, you know, on the internet, and you pick someone.
Oh, well, we're just friends, but he's so cool. I mean, we talk all the time. He's on the JV football team, and he's in that science club that I've been wanting to get into. So, and we have some mutual friends.
Also, you have an instant level of trust if there's a mutual friend that you can clue in on.
So I haven't seen him around, but I think we might have bumped into each other a time or two.
once you get them to connect with something familiar, it's all good.
He's a really cool guy, and he's super cute and really funny, and we like all the same movies.
Everyone wants to list their favorite books, their favorite movies, their favorite places to eat. So you clue in on those and you can instantly find some common ground with someone.
I'm really excited to meet him.
What next?
Well, once I have her hooked, I just have to reel her in.
He says it's a surprise, so who knows? But either way, he said we're gonna have a ton of fun tonight.
Promised her we'd have some fun today, so I just wanted to show her how much I like her.
It's gonna be super fun, and we're gonna probably just get to know each other and, you know, go out. So it'll be fun. I'm excited.
Well, that'll be our closer for, because it's got the 4.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so Rochelle, I know I didn't tell you that would be an opener, but I thought we would just sort of put it out there. That Rochelle has a particular, as a board member, has a particular passion. I'm just going to let you share yourself, why that is and who you are, and then jump right in with some pointers and information. Yeah.
Okay. My name is Rochelle Douglas, and I'm a volunteer and board member with the coalition. I'm also a mom to 2 young boys, one age 9 and the other one 11. I always think the one's 8, but he's 9 now. And I joined the coalition pretty much because I wanted to help spread education to children and parents about domestic child sex trafficking specifically, and just the dangers of social media and internet and gaming and all of that stuff as it relates to our kids. And so I guess recently I had something happen that kind of caught me off guard. You know, you always hear these stories of you know, a child getting, you know, or somebody contacting a child through, you know, an online or gaming app, or, you know, recently in the news, we've heard about the coach from Hickman, I believe, who was arrested for CSAM, which is child sexual abuse material, or as many people know it as child pornography. But he was arrested because he was using the app Discord, which is a common like app for online gamers to use to communicate back and forth to one another. And he had in his possession pictures of young boys. And then there was another coach recently that was arrested also by the FBI. This gentleman was from Voz, I think maybe North Callaway, if I'm remembering correctly. And he was using Snapchat as a means to connect with young girls and to coerce them, pressure them, whatever he was doing, to send him nude pictures and that sort of thing. So they had found out that he had multiple Snapchat accounts. He was posing as a younger boy, and he was talking to girls 13, 14 years old all over the country. So it's something that, you know, when I talk to a lot of my friends and other parents whose children have social media, you know, it's like, well, my child's account is private, and, you know, nobody can contact them. And it's kind of it's a false sense of security, because anybody can send a friend request and they can pose as a young boy or a young girl, and, you know, kids don't know any better, and they're like, oh, this kid's cute. I'll click on this. And then once they, accept the friend request, then this person has the means to contact them. But not just that, you can get spam through text messages. And I had a friend whose daughter had received a text message from a random person, probably baiting her to engage through text messaging. Tuesday, I think, I woke up to a text message on my phone, and it was from, I guess, a young girl who, just casually was like, hey, is this Rome? This is Parker. We met on Coffee Meets Bagel, like real odd. I knew exactly what it was. I'm in town visiting my sister. We didn't get to meet up last time, but hopefully we can connect this time. And I knew what it was, but I went ahead and I just said, wrong number. And then I got another text message followed by, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. I thought, I can't believe I sent this to a random person. And then I got a picture. I got a picture of a young girl, probably 13, 14 years old. And just another one that said, I'm idiotic. I can't believe I did this, but hey, you want to chat? Like, what are you up to? And knowing what that is, I mean, I ended up reaching out to the Boone County Internet Crimes Task Force and sent the text message to him, to the detective, and talked to him about it. But you just think about how easy it is. I use this as a teaching tool for my son, who recently we've activated his phone so he has the capability to contact us. He doesn't have a lot of internet access and he's not on social media, but he still can now get text messages. And so I was like, hey, look, I got this random text message followed by a picture of a young girl. Do you think that this is who this is? And we've had lots of conversations, probably more than he would like, about the dangers of, just being online and that sort of thing. And he's like, no, probably not her, and then he proceeded to show me that he had received also through email, but through text message, somebody that just said hi, and then it gave a website to click on. And he's like, I ignored it, but I got this, a couple days ago. And so I was like, well, let's just delete it, block it, we'll get rid of it. And when I forwarded along to Detective Evans, as you go through clicking on the website, it takes you to, pretty nasty, like Tinder dating site. And so it's just, these kids don't know any better and they click on it. Had my son clicked on it, his internet is restricted, so he wouldn't have gotten very far. So it's just kind of those, like, that realization, and then talking to a friend about it, she was like, oh yeah, I get those all the time. So this is something that, like, it happens, and as parents, or guardians or grandparents or aunts or uncles or mentors, we have to be very proactive with kids. We have to make sure that we're providing them a safe space to come talk to us. We need to have these conversations about, what sex is and pornography. And as much as, like, I didn't want to talk to my, at the time, 8 and 10-year-old about, the birds and the bees, thinking they're so innocent. They don't, I don't want to have this conversation. It's either they're going to learn it from me, a trusted parent, and their dad, or they're going to find out through either stumbling across something online or their friends at school who have stumbled across something online or clicked on something. And so it's just really, really important at this time, especially now that kids are at school, they have phones, they have access to the internet. those that are online doing education online, they have access to the internet, and it's just a open, field day for people, for these, for traffickers to come in and, grooming and, or, soliciting, kids to these adult websites, and that sort of thing. So is there anything else? Nanette, can you think of anything else that you wanted me to?
Let's put up, I'm sorry, Loretta, Loretta, oh, sorry, this is Loretta. She is here managing, so we do want to put up the slide you made, Rochelle, so that you can refer to that. It's the one that you sent me, so
Yep.
we'll go over that.
Yeah, so a couple just like quick tips and resources. I mean, obviously the number one way that we can keep kids safe is to delay them a smartphone, or to delay them on social media. Like I said, my son does not have, neither one of my kids have social media yet. My 11-year-old has friends that have social media, and he knows he's not getting it anytime soon, but he does have a smartphone, so he does have some limited access to certain things, but we are constantly staying very proactive. I mean, it's my phone, so I have, the right to look at his phone at any time, to scroll through his text messages, and just to monitor it, and he knows that. So one of the things that I had came across earlier today from Thorn, which is a nonprofit organization developed by, many of you probably know who Ashton Kutcher is. He's a big time advocate against child sexual abuse. And they posted some really good stuff online that you can now go to. But 3 things that parents can do right now. One, start early by fostering that open dialogue, to talk to your children, to gain trust, and just so you set them up with skills so that, they have that before they encounter something. Because it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when at this point. To listen often. I mean, there are so many times where my kids come to me and they're like, oh, there's this new thing in this game and I want to tell you all about it. And my first reaction is to like completely zone out, because I'm like, I really don't care about your gaming avatar or whatever. But if we can just give them our undivided attention, we can learn about what they're doing, show interest, maybe even play the games that they're playing, just so you know exactly what's going on. Have them teach you. And so that way it's not completely foreign to you. And this helps to create that back and forth. And then, they feel more comfortable talking to you about things. And then to be your child's safety net, not to victim blame, because they're going to make mistakes, and they need to know that if they do, when they do make those mistakes, that, they have a safe place to go to. So there's some, if you want a screenshot on there, we put together some really good websites. Protect Young Eyes. This is a website that focuses on internet safety. It really does help parents kind of navigate and know the different social media apps. They do a lot of reviews. They have webinars that help parents set up safety measures on devices and that sort of thing. Enough.org, that is just a huge, database of information on statistics and just all kinds of stuff related to children, to pornography and trafficking, sex trafficking, all of that. Missingkids.org, is that through, I think that's through NCMEC?
Yes.
Yeah. Which is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They also have some really great resources on their website for just knowing the warning signs if, a child is being groomed or, something is going on in that realm. Bark
They're also,
is,
sorry.
oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Also the agency that receives tips. So if you
Yes.
go to that website, you can report by online, or you can also call, not just missing kids, but also reports of other kinds of nefarious things going on. Yeah.
So the stuff that I came across, I report to them. It goes into their database, and then they have this and that huge thing of like statistics. Like in 2020, there was a giant increase in online pornography, kids certain age, and it's because people would put in information and say, my child came across porn or something happened and that sort of thing. So Bark is the monitoring service that you can install on, I believe, phones. And that way, like if something comes through, it'll red flag, it'll tell you, it'll report back to your phone, and it'll say, there's bullying or, language that's inappropriate or pictures that are inappropriate. The age that children start sending and sexting and sending nude pictures is typically in the age range of 12, 13, 14, middle school ages. So culturereframed.org, this is a really great organization that works with teens and how to talk to your teens and children about pornography. Internet Safety 101, what it sounds like. NetSmarts is also through NCMEC, more information on online safety and DMST, which is domestic minor sex trafficking.
And also the videos that parents can use that are for different age groups, that they can actually show their kids about internet safety.
Yeah, thank you. Parents.thorn.org, they've now put out some really great stuff, which is where I got just that quick 3 things parents can do right now. Defend Young Minds, that's another nonprofit that creates educational materials. They have really great books that you can read with your child about teaching them about pornography, age appropriate books. So younger kids, and so like elementary age kids and middle school age kids. Internet crimes, which I'm assuming is where that one you had posted on there, Nanette, that's where you can submit information if you have something that you've encountered. And then I threw on Gab Wireless. That is actually a phone that is no internet. It's if you are needing to give your kid a phone, you need to have contact with them, but you don't want to mess with the internet. You don't want to have to deal with social media. It looks like a smartphone. It operates similar to a smartphone, but without all the stresses of all that other stuff. So I think that's it.
Thank you, Rochelle. So as a closer, in addition to what Rochelle has shared, and we'll post this flyer on Facebook, but one of the videos that was just posted today, in keeping with this month, the kids going back to school, is this video, and it signs your child could be talking to a sex predator. So again, just that prevention and awareness piece. We'll close with that. Okay, and actually we have just one image that captures that, a little bit of that signs. This was a picture from a news article that came out just recently. And it speaks to that with the big red X of how, and I actually had a friend that they didn't post all these details, but it was the first day of school and like a sign that said maybe what grade they're going into, but how some folks, parents will have this sign that has all these details about their kid, big X on those details. And then the big red green check, how on the posting details that would identify your kid is blurred out. So, you certainly can share, but even sometimes thinking about sharing the pictures of your kids can be taking a risk. So I do want to say that. So even though there's a good and a bad, sometimes just not even posting the pictures of your young kids is best of all. So, okay, thank you. And okay, and announcements. Oh, so September 11th, this Saturday in Jeff City, the coalition will be tabling as part of Safety Awareness Day. This has a little extra activity that folks can sign up. We see the $5 student and registering online for a labspacerobots.com. That's a separate activity within the Awareness Day, but there will be tabling, including the coalition. They're going to have a SWAT Bear Cat and Highway Patrol car, karate, ATA, and lots of businesses displaying, but we'll be out there. So just wanted to invite you. It's 1 to 3 p.m. at the Capitol Mall in Jefferson City. Okay, another announcement.
What?
Oh, I heard somebody. Okay, we can go in whatever order. So October 16th, car, truck, and bike show being sponsored by Comonaz. That's the Nazarene Church in Columbia, Missouri, and that will be at their church site. There's some more information on our online and on our on our Facebook page, and we'll be on our website, and we'll be sending out by email. But just want you to know, if there's any of you out there, I mean, you never know. I actually said to somebody, so do you know anybody who likes these kinds? And it's like, yes, they did. And so you never know who out there is a lover or owns these kinds of things. So the spectators are free, so there's no cost to go in and view all the trucks, cars, and bikes, but the registration will come from those who want to have their truck, car, bike on display. And they're going to have food truck and door prizes and music and trophies and all that fun stuff. So that's coming up October 16th. The coalition is hosting these upcoming Human Trafficking 101 trainings. And you can see there are daytime sessions and evening sessions, and we'll put those up as well. But if you want to make quick note of these, one of them is coming up as early as next week, Wednesday, from 11:30 to 1:30. And we cover the basics through video and PowerPoint and discussion, the basics of human trafficking, which would be both sex trafficking and labor trafficking. And we encourage people, any volunteer, anybody coming on new to this issue or joining us, to take that, because in the future we'll be having more specialized training that will focus specifically on, for example, sex trafficking, and then child sex trafficking, specifically on labor trafficking. So going more in depth into these other aspects. Another announcement, this is in Stockton, Missouri, but again, you never know. Camper lovers, go out there to Stockton, Missouri. There's going to be bands and vendors, fire dancers, glass blowers, all kinds of fun things, family friendly. It's a fundraiser, and the coalition was privileged to be included in one of the 10 organizations that are not for profit that they're raising money for. And it's Canna Matriarchs is the sponsoring organization. It's 4 days of camping, but 2 days of the festival. And the festival is the weekend, Saturday, September 22 and 23. I hope I said that correctly.
No, 16.
Oh, no, I didn't say it correctly at all. That's another thing. It's a busy month. That's the 16th and
16
Oh.
to 19. September 16, 19,
The festival is 2 days.
18 and 19.
18 and 19 is the actual festival, and we will be out there tabling from like 10 in the morning to 9 at night on Saturday, and 10 in the morning to 7 in the evening on Sunday. So just want you to know about that. Lots of great activities going on for 4 days. Let's see, and then Ed's, oh, sorry.
don't have that up yet,
Oh,
so
okay.
give me a second.
So she's pulling up. So Ed was with Audrain County Sheriff's Department. So Ed, if you want to go ahead and talk about, unmute yourself and talk about this Introduction for the Protection of Children training that is coming up while Loretta puts the flyer up. Ed,
I'm here. I'm trying to get my phone to shut off.
it's all right. Here we go.
Yeah, I have scheduled a IPC training for 22nd and 23rd of this month to be held in Mexico, Missouri, at the Second Missionary Baptist Church, which is my church home. Hoping to get a huge turnout. So far, it's going well. Looking for some good training on that day.
Yeah, so what's important is you can get post credits? I'm sorry, I can't, is for law enforcement. So wherever, and Lauren, tell your husband, he's law enforcement in, is it Holt Summit or? Yeah, but anyway, law enforcement actually sent it out to our Columbia PD assistant chief in chief, because they have not had this IPC training offered in this Boone County area. It is a terrific, intensive 2-day training. If you can only make 1 day, it's better than missing it altogether, but it's from 8 to 5 for 2 days in a row. So I know that it could be prohibitive to some people, but it is targeted to law enforcement. However, because Highway Patrol knows that it takes many of us from different areas and walks of life to do this work alongside law enforcement, there are others that can come and be part of the training as well. If, in particular, if you're a social service person or a caseworker, or an advocate, the teacher, it'd be a great training for you as a teacher who is on here with us. But just know that it's not just law enforcement, but it is targeted law enforcement, but it's really a very good training. And they have done a terrific job of turning things around in Missouri in terms of identifying perpetrators in the roadside stops and being able to help victims who are in those vehicles when they do these roadside stops. It's made a very definite impact on the increase of identifying perpetrators and helping victims. Anything else you want to add to that, Ed?
Yeah, I was going to say it is 16 hours post credit.
There it
For
is.
officers. Yes, no post credit for officers. So it's some good training and a way to keep up with the CEUs.
And there's a great place that he's going to let us go for lunch. Lunch is on your own, but there's apparently a really great restaurant there in Mexico.
Yeah, it's one that I'm very familiar with. I know the owners by name, and it's like a big family oriented restaurant. It's called Brick City Buffet, and it's a buffet style restaurant. And the food's really good, and they do give law enforcement discounts. So I did reserve the big community room, so if officers want to go and eat, and they can go and eat and have a good time.
All right. Thank you, Ed.
You're
So lots of things going on. September is a busy month, and Laura, if you just hang on one more minute. Crystal, I know you finally came on, but we wanted to introduce Crystal. She is the new coordinator of the Attorney General's Human Trafficking Task Force. And we welcome her. We've had one meeting of the task force so far, and I know I joined by Zoom. That wasn't very much fun, but still getting everybody together, and just a reminder that it's a task force made up of law enforcement and prosecutors and survivors and victim advocates around the country. Sorry, around the state. Wouldn't that be cool if we had a?
It would.
But Crystal, I wanted to give you a chance to introduce yourself to our group.
Thank you, Nanette. Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. I started in the task force on August 2nd, and my prior background, I started with the Department of Revenue, and then I went to Department of Corrections. I've worked with mental health, and I also have worked with Missouri State Highway Patrol. And then while I was in the Missouri State Highway Patrol, I put myself through the Missouri Sheriff's Association Training Academy. So I'm actually a police officer. I'm post-certified police officer. And I worked with the court over at the Supreme Court as a deputy marshal for 10 years before coming to the Attorney General's office. So I'm really happy to be here, and I want to work with everyone. If you want to just call me, introduce yourself to me. Nanette has my numbers, or you can find me at the main Attorney General's office. So anyhow, that's about me in a nutshell. So this is something that's really near and dear to my heart, and I'm very passionate about. So I really am looking forward to working with everyone.
Thank you, Crystal. And we're going to have you back so you can share some updates, because there is
Okay.
the work of the Attorney General continues. We've had, for folks who've been with us for a while, we've had updates from time to time, and we'll continue to do that. So if there's anything you want to say about what's going on in particular, Crystal, I know that the attorney, that he's still working on the I've just drawn a blank. Operation Hope, is that correct?
It's called the Hope Initiative.
Hope Initiative to
Yes.
illicit massage parlors.
Yes, we are working on that very diligently. I mean, you know, that's something that is so hard to track. But I am actually meeting with the Police Chiefs Association on the 24th of this month, and to speak with them about what I'm hoping to have them help us with. And also I work with the therapeutic massage licensing, and we're working together as well to combat this on different levels. And there's a couple other avenues that we're trying to look into as well. I won't go into those further just because they're a work in progress right now. So anyways, yes, we're working on that. It's called the Hope Initiative. So
Thank you. Okay. And
yes, ma'am.
I thank you, Crystal. And I did say Laura, but I meant Julie. So Julie Larson, I'm sorry. It's like, hold on. It's like, which name is it? But we have cleared, we have cleared everything, covered everything. Actually, there's one quick statement I meant to make. We know we were focusing on children and social media. I know Pete's smiling. He's like, yeah, Nanette, one more thing. Okay. So I did want to tell you though, there was a global data hub on human trafficking report, and it did say that college-aged women, so let's not forget, we definitely, our children are being targeted, but not to forget our college-age individuals as well. That the college-age women are disproportionately affected by sex traffickers online, and that women represent 71% of sex trafficking victims. So we know that globally, that there's high percentage of women compared to men, but we also know like 25% are children. But I just wanted to highlight and not forget. And they said the most common age is 18 to 20 years old. So victims of trafficking who are women are most commonly between 18 and 20 years old. So just wanted to highlight that as well. So Julie from Legal Aid of Western Missouri, thank you. And if you would give us an introduction of who you are. I have your supervising attorney. There's a human rights protection team, an immigration project, and migrant farm workers project of the Legal Aid of Western Missouri, but that's a lot. So you might need to put context in the right way. So thank you, Julie.
Sure. Well, thank you, Nanette. It's just such a joy to be here. And it's just amazing to see everything that you all have going on. What a robust group. I'm so excited. And my uncle's actually has a classic car. So I don't know what he's got going on that weekend, but I'll tell him about your fundraiser. So
Right.
he may very well make a trip down, but yes, thanks so much for having me. the Human Rights Protection Team at Legal Aid. We used to have, as part of our team, some of your dear friends, Christine Ladner and Meredith Hogan, and they were part of the Anti-Human Trafficking Project that comprised the Human Rights Protection Team. But when their fellowship ran out, they both did stay at LAMO, which we're really glad. But we don't have a dedicated human trafficking project in the same way. But that said, we still do serve a large number of labor trafficking and sex trafficking survivors through the Immigration Project and the Migrant Farm Workers Project. So we have a staff attorney, Dan Klittenbach. We have 3 bilingual paralegals and a legal interpreter, and then me. And we so that is how we serve as many people as we can. But we definitely miss Christine and Meredith, being with them more every day, and because they just have such a heart for the work and the survivors. So I will I tried to share my screen, but it looks like it says
Let's do a screen share for, and she can just tell me when to advance.
Okay, so if you're having trouble, then we can move the slides for you. If you,
oh, thank you. That would be great. Well, to start things off, our Migrant Farm Workers Project, as part of the Human Rights Protection Team, is tasked with providing free legal services to all of the migrant and seasonal farm workers throughout the state of Missouri. And currently there are 49,206 of them. And I would say that of the ones that we've encountered, 90% experience some form of labor exploitation, and 60% experience labor trafficking. So it's a very harrowing industry, to say the least. And in the next slide, I will have an overview of the presentation. So I wanted to start off with a statistical snapshot of the labor trafficking data in the state of Missouri, and then share a few case studies. And then Nanette had a great idea of highlighting US citizen survivors of labor trafficking as well. So I wanted to share a few of those cases that we've encountered. And then finally, sharing a few resources, aside from law enforcement, of course, that you all can use if you do spot some sort of sinister labor situation, just resources that you in your everyday life can connect individuals with someone who can be on the lookout for their safety and well-being. So before we dive into the data, I wanted to kind of give a qualifier, because all of this data is pulled directly from labor trafficking survivors that we have served as part in our daily lives at Legal Aid of Western Missouri. So I selected 50 labor trafficking survivors that we've served this year. So this doesn't include all the survivors served this year, but I just thought 50 was kind of a nice round number to go with. But I did try to kind of section it off so it gives you a broader picture of what we're seeing on the statewide level. So in the next slide, we do have a significant proportion of our survivors are foreign born. So 72% come from Mexico. We have 12% from South Africa. 6% are from the United States. 4% from India. 4% from Guatemala, and then 2% from China. So in the next slide, I'll show the breakdown. So our foreign-born population is 94%, and our US citizen population is hovering around 6% of the people that we serve. Now you'll see that our industries, if you like to geek out on the National Human Trafficking Hotline website, which I'm sure many of you do, you'll see that our industries don't track exactly with the statistics that are displayed on the website there. So we have a disproportionately high number of agricultural workers, which is not too surprising given our mandate to serve agricultural workers throughout the entire state. And then we serve non-agricultural workers who are labor trafficking survivors in the 40 counties in the western part of the state. So of this representative sample, we have 60% in agriculture, and then we have a 10% in landscaping. And so this is something interesting to keep your eyes and ears peeled for, is we've seen an increase in workers who are brought here lawfully through the H-2A temporary agricultural worker program, but they are misclassified as farm workers when they are spending the majority of their day doing landscaping work. And you'll think, well, I mean, that might be kind of nice because landscaping work is maybe not as arduous as farm work, but where the rubber hits the road for them is, unfortunately, in 1938, when the Fair Labor Standards Act was enacted, they exempted farm workers from overtime, even if they were to be eligible based on the number of hours worked. So we're seeing employers who are saying, oh, these workers are going to do farm work, and that's a way for them to shirk that obligation of paying overtime. So we've seen workers who come to us and they say, well, I've been working 65 hours a week laying sod in suburban Kansas City. And we're like, but you were brought here under the H-2A program. How does that work? And then when we dig deeper, we see, oh my goodness, there's also threats of deportation keeping you here. There's threats of harm to family members abroad. Your documents are confiscated. So what's been really disturbing and not at all surprising is once we see employers shirk basic employment laws, they're more likely to make grave violations of human rights and worker protection standards, field sanitation. And then we also have 8% of labor trafficking survivors that we serve are in the restaurant industry. And then 4% respectively with construction, cleaning, and roofing. And then 2% with domestic kind of nanny work or an in-home cleaner, hotels, models, massage parlors, and convenience stores. So these are just the individuals that have come onto our radar either through our direct outreach or through referrals from word of mouth. So a client will say, hey, you helped me, help my friend. So I think that's another reason why we tend to have workers from certain industries appear more frequently. But it's always fascinating because I feel like we're always shocked thinking, oh, I can't believe that they've thought of this way to exploit workers. And it's incredible because our clients are so resilient, so brave. And the magical thing is that they will come to us and they will have a litany of everything that's wrong with their work situation. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, they have found all of the indicators for labor trafficking themselves, but they won't connect that term to it. And so our job becomes really easy because it's just a matter of saying, okay, let's connect this statutory provision to what you have suffered. And so it's really empowering for the workers to see, oh, wow, I knew that wasn't right. That's not how things should be. So that's one of the things I love most about our work, is just seeing workers, that light bulb moment of, oh my gosh, we can make something happen and we can fight back, speak out. So in the next slide, I dive into the gender disparity. So what we have seen, predominantly the labor trafficking survivors that we see are male. But one thing that has been concerning is we've seen a very interesting interplay between sex and labor trafficking, which I'm sure you all have kind of read about or heard about on the news. But when we, and this is something that you can do when, you know, in the summer, in the peak harvest season, lots of, especially in the boot heel, many farm workers will descend to work in watermelons, in cantaloupes, and they will, most of them will stay in kind of a little bit skeezy hotels, but you can go and they'll be hanging out outside. You can chat with them, provide information. We'll go provide drinks and flyers and pamphlets. But one thing that we saw that was really concerning to us was that there would be large crews of men, and then maybe 4 or 6 women who would be members of the crew. And they would have, you know, 4-inch nails, they'd be dressed to the nines, and they would say, well, I'm here to cook, you know. And we thought, I'm not sure that you're here to cook. And just there is definitely, there are definitely women who feel that they cannot leave the employ of this crew leader or farm labor contractor, but they're there in order to service these workers who are away from their families for months at a time. So that's another place where we really think that community members can really be eyes and ears on the ground for some of these things, and can kind of protect workers in a way that they may not already realize. And in the next slide, we talk about the age breakdown. So we really have not seen a lot of child labor trafficking victims, survivors, but that of course does not mean that they do not exist, but just in our particular realm, we haven't encountered them. The majority of our clients do range in age from 19 to 30, so about 64%, with another 30% from 31 to 50, and a final 4%, 51 to 75. And we've seen a lot of recruiters, especially international recruiters, will really zero in on late adolescents, early 20-year-olds, It's their first time in the US. They promised them this well-paying job on a farm. They can earn essentially 4 years' wages in their country of origin in 4 months in the United States. So it seems like an offer too good to refuse. But what they often come to the US with is a great deal of fear and trepidation. And one thing that has been especially concerning to us is that these recruiters are moving deeper and deeper into the more remote areas of Mexico and Guatemala to bring people to the US lawfully through the H-2A or H-2B program. And they will zero in on indigenous peoples, people who speak only rudimentary Spanish, people who lack access to healthcare and to well-paying jobs. And so we did a study where we tracked the number of days that a worker from, not even a large town, but just a moderately large city versus one who was from a rancho, how many days they remained with their trafficker. And it was uncanny to see that, the ones from the most remote places stayed the entire time, where the other one from the more populous city was quick to leave as soon as he could navigate a ride out from the work site. So we see a lot of preying on people's vulnerabilities, which is just, you always hear that happens, but then when you see it firsthand, it just seems very, very sinister and overwhelming for the clients, for sure, and for us. And in the next slide, currently 66% of our labor trafficking survivors hail from rural areas of the state. We have 24% in suburban areas, and those are a lot of the landscaping workers and restaurant workers. And then we have 10% in more urban communities. So again, that probably does not quite jive with some of the statistics that have been done on a statewide basis, but this is what we have seen firsthand. So, and in the next slide, another amazing part of our work involves just the stories, the incredible resilient clients that we get to meet each day. And so this worker, amazing man, university educated, 20 years of experience as an accountant in his country of origin. He was lured to the United States by his cousin, promised a lucrative accounting job, only to wind up in a very, dingy convenience store where he worked 84 hours a week. His identity documents were confiscated. He was essentially confined to his relative's basement. And through all of that, he had brought his family with him. So after a while, his spouse started to blame him, saying, "You got us into this mess. This is not worth it." And she left. She ran off with his 2 children. So he was basically just totally bereft, without any strong support system. but he ended up participating in the prosecution, and which was successful and led to the incarceration of his traffickers. And so our organization was able to file a application for T non-immigrant status for him, which was approved. And then just a couple of months ago, it was so beautiful. One of his sons that he had been estranged from because of this trafficking situation, he was able to reunite with his son after 8 years. His son flew from the country of origin, and now he was able to get T derivative status. And so they came to our office, and we're so grateful. And they brought roses, and the roses were freedom roses. And he said, "This is what I found, my freedom." And it's just an incredible human. And I'm so proud of everything he's done now, because he's working at Walmart, and he has decreased the number of thefts at Walmart by like 65%, because he got this really great strategy he saw that people were picking up receipts from the parking lot and then taking them in and finding that item and essentially trying to return a stolen item. And so he made a system. So just people with incredible gifts to offer our community. So that's first, incredible labor trafficking survivor. And number two, this case study involves a suburban roofer. This individual came from a horrendous childhood, just abuse after abuse after abuse. He came to the United States, and he found a job as a roofer. But from the get-go, this employer was very, very menacing. So the employer said, "Hey, you need a company truck to work for me." So he said, "And you got to buy it." And he said, "Oh, I don't have enough money." And he said, "Okay, well, no problem. I'll loan you the money, and then you can work off the debt." And he said, "Okay." And so he said, "But you need to give me a down payment." Well, he didn't have enough money for the down payment. So what does he do? He sells his own car. And so his only car is provided by the employer, which it's a flashy new truck. There's no way he's going to pay it off, and there's no terms for paying it off. So he doesn't know how long he has to work for this person to pay it off. So he tries to look for other jobs. He's thinking, okay, I got to pay off this debt. I don't want to work for this guy forever. He's mean. He monitored his movement, and then he asked him to move into a home that the employer owned so that he could monitor his comings and goings. And so he tried to get other jobs to try and pay off his debt faster, but he would get punished when he would do that. So finally, the feds got wind of this company, and they contacted him and said, "Hey, you know, this is not how it's supposed to be. Do you want to help with the investigation?" And he said, "Sure." But this employer was so threatening and very, very, had several rifles that he would clean in front of people, and he knew where his family members lived, so he would threaten harm to them. Well, thankfully, thanks to their cooperation, these traffickers were also prosecuted, incarcerated, and our organization filed an application for T non-immigrant status for for him, and it was approved. And he then, after you receive your T non-immigrant status, you can apply for a green card. And so he recently got his green card along with his wife and son. So he's just an amazing human, just a dedicated dad, really committed to his faith community, just wants to do whatever he can to ensure that no one ever has to go through something like this again. And so that's kind of the theme that we see with our clients is, no, I want what I went through to count for something. And so they work so hard to do that. And then last but not least, we have an amazing client who came here lawfully through the H-2A program. But he was charged with recruiting others to work for this company. And he thought, okay, well, I'll help some of my friends get jobs in the US. We'll come here, we'll come on a visa, we'll work for a few months, then we'll go back home. They'll be able to send their kids to school, pay for surgeries, buy a little land. It'll be great. Well, this employer charged $500 a person to get the job before they even set foot in the US. Well, it ended up being that he charged this to 300 people and he only hired 100 of them. So 200 of these recruits are infuriated because they spent all this money and they don't get any job. So then this trafficker retaliates against our client and says it's your fault that people are leaving the job. You got too many people. But he said, well, I got exactly the number of people you wanted. And so he told him that he could not leave until he paid off a sizable debt. And so, but what was really terrifying was while he was in the US, some of these workers who had been kind of jilted, essentially, they went to his farm and they threatened his mom with violence. And they said, your son cheated us. And she said, no, 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 it was not my son. It was this trafficker dude. So in order to quell all of these violent rioters, she ended up selling a large part of her land. And so basically in Guatemala, like where their region, they earn about $1,000 a year is the typical family salary. So this land was worth $16,000. So if you think of like what would be the equivalent of 16 years of your wages, and she paid back all of these jilted workers. And so he cooperated with USDOL, with the Office of Inspector General, Labor and Traffic Racketeering Unit. He provided a lot of information to the feds, and the employer that he was working for has been debarred, which means that they're prohibited from participating in this H-2A program for 3 years. So he was considered that a win. But the thing he most wanted was that no other Guatemalan worker ever had to experience something like that. So he just an incredible person who every sacrifice he makes is for his family, and it's just amazing. So in the next slide, we have, I thought this was such a great point that Nanette brought up to me was, hey, what about US citizen survivors of labor trafficking? And we do see them. I think we as myself, chiefly me, I need to do a better job at identifying and looking for them. But as you can imagine, US citizen survivors of labor trafficking are manifest on the margins. So we see them in three main areas. Number one, a lot of times they will come to our office and they will present as a basic landlord-tenant dispute where, oh, I'm getting kicked out of my apartment. And you're saying, what? But then you come to find out that they are not paying rent, but they have like a work for rent arrangement. But we see a lot of times that the landlords will change the terms on them very suddenly. A lot of times there's no written like delineation of, okay, how much work do you have to do to keep your room and board? And then when you dig deeper, you realize, oh my goodness, this is a trafficking situation. So we see a lot of US citizens get into those sort of circumstances. Then one thing that has been really, really tough recently for me is we see a lot of halfway houses, and when individuals leave a prison and maybe they're kind of an informal halfway house, or sometimes it will be affiliated with a nonprofit or a community-based organization. But we had a client who came to us and said that, he was at a halfway house, and this employee of the halfway house said, hey, I can renew your green card for you. So he wasn't a citizen, but a lawful permanent resident, but you need to work for me. But there were no terms. It was just kind of an indefinite time. And so he was thinking, well, how long do I have to work? And what do I have to do? And how will I know when I'm freed of my obligations? And then what was very heartbreaking was then this employee of the halfway house changed the terms on him again and began soliciting sexual favors from him. And so he was feeling very, very targeted. He had no other options. He's recently trying to rebuild his life. So we see a lot of times people who have been, who are on the cusp of making a new life plan, starting fresh, that they get the short end of the stick. Another thing that we've seen that's and this was something that we saw in outreach, is group homes where teens who have been kind of had brushes with the law, young adolescents, went to this community living facility. And then as part of this facility, they were supposed to work to provide for this company that was supported by the franchise. But here was the kicker. They didn't get any of their money. The organization kept all of their money they had earned, and they had to go and ask for allowances, like, oh, I need to buy shoes. Can I get, but then you couldn't leave early before the completion of your program, or you would have to forfeit all of those all of the money you had earned up until then. They had a policy of donating that money to another nonprofit entity abroad. So it was very, very bizarre and concerning to us. But those did involve US citizens. And then finally, what we have seen is we had a client, US citizen, also homeless. And so, you know, it was the dead of winter. She needed a place to stay, so she got a job at a hotel cleaning rooms. Well, she was cleaning in exchange for her room and board, but when we sat down and we calculated how much she was earning an hour, even factoring in her room and board, she was earning like $4 an hour. But she really didn't have any other alternative at that time, or she felt like she didn't. And so we also see that with US citizen survivors. But next slide. And we have seen, and I want to be respectful of your all's time. So we have seen a large confluence of factors leading to surges in COVID cases amongst labor trafficking survivors. A lot of times we've even seen employers use lockdown procedures as a guise for restricting worker freedom of movement. So workers have had to be very cognizant of, is this a legitimate COVID restriction, or is my employer trying to keep unnecessary tabs on me outside of work hours? And the next slide. So we do have a few action steps to combat labor trafficking. And I sent Nanette a handout that we created just with a few, just a one-pager with contact information for some enforcement agencies. I didn't include law enforcement because depending on the region of the state, like there's always a certain way that you want to approach law enforcement. So I didn't want to, I just think that's such a localized strategy. So probably if you see something in Central Missouri, you should call Nanette up, is probably your best bet actually, because she's the most connected. So I think actually, but you can also make anonymous third-party complaints to DOL, OSHA, to the EEOC. Now the EEOC they would more enforce like sexual harassment, Title VII employment discrimination, but a lot of times if an employer is sexually harassing its workers, if it is discriminating on basis of national origin, they also are probably doing exploitation or trafficking. So it's good to cast a wide net, because you never know which agency will jump at it. And then also the Better Business Bureau. So there's a lot that you can do as you know, as a community member, as an advocate. I feel like so much of this is undetected, but I feel I'm so hopeful because you all already know all the signs of labor trafficking. So you can suss out these situations and protect all these workers. So I think good things are on the horizon for Missouri. So thank you all.
We want to put up your handout, Julie. Oh, here. So, oops, sorry.
Let me pull it up.
So we'll do your handout. I just can't thank you enough, Julie. This, in fact, my mind was already thinking how we would love to host you to do specifically this, with really to let you have that time to expand on it, because we need to continue the education around labor trafficking and how you so well, you did it so well, putting faces to this particular crime in Missouri, and knowing that you have many other cases to pull from to inform us. I think those stories are so critical. In fact, when we did the first labor trafficking session at a community meeting, that was one of the videos, was the faces of labor trafficking that's on the Office for Victims of Crime website. But it's so much more meaningful when we have Missouri agency and Missouri faces. It just means so much. I know when we talk about here in central Missouri, we have lots of labor crews who are doing lots of construction, especially here in Columbia, building apartments, university buildings, all kinds of hotels, you know. So definitely the foreign workers who are on labor crews, and also lawn crews, definitely on lawn crews, definitely working in the restaurant industry. We know that there's certain parts of Missouri that are more heavy with the hotel industry, but certainly we have, I mean, in Columbia itself, we have over 30 hotels and motels, but we have put up, or have we, is that up, Loretta? Sorry, or what? Is that up?
Yes.
Okay, so the hotline and the labor trafficking, sorry, labor wage and hour division, OSHA. And let's see, can we scroll down? Consular Protections Departments, EEOC, Better Business Bureau. And so I would ask you, Julie, and I know we appreciate your being aware of the time, but these you folks are helping them with the legal process, but you talked about the Fed. So has it been FBI, or what agencies, what enforcement agencies have you worked with in these cases of labor trafficking here in Missouri, most commonly, or just all of the different ones you've covered with?
Yeah, well, I feel like we're so fortunate here in our federal law enforcement is just fantastic, and they really are survivor centered. So HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, has been amazing. Teresa Brown is just incredible. Then also the U.S. Department of Labor Office of Inspector General, they have a really robust racketeering and visa fraud, labor trafficking division, and they are really interested in this as well. Then also the U.S. DOL Wage and Hour Division has been really helpful too. They cannot enforce the Trafficking Victims Protection Reauthorization Act, but they can enforce the Fair Labor Standards Act and the Agricultural Worker Protection Act. So they are, but they have such great enforcement mechanisms that they can really, if there is an issue where there's an emergency situation, you need to move workers quickly out of a danger, they are on it. They're just so willing to help. Then the State Monitor Advocate is more tailored to farm worker protection, but they are really, really wonderful as well. And then the EEOC, their St. Louis office has a really lots of the workers there are kindred spirits of your coalition, I'm sure. They really want to help workers, survivors of labor trafficking, even though they're not, that's not their main focus, but there's so much overlap that we've worked with them a lot too. So those are the main ones. We haven't, I think one thing I would love for us to work on more is coordinating more with the AUSAs and with like the Department of Labor Solicitor of Labor Office, So I think there's so much more that we could do, but it's just we just don't have the patent on the 36-hour day. I wish we did, but I've just been so grateful to everyone, because it really does take a village, and it just seeing what brings each person to the table and what keeps them at the table is just so exciting. So it's been fun.
You really, thank you, Julie. And we had a chat, somebody thanking you. It really was a terrific presentation on so many levels, and we really needed it. We need more of it. And so I'll be calling you. Any comments or questions? I know for those who are still hanging in there, just want to make sure if there's any pressing matter. Okay. How many of you learned something new today?
I did.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.